I want to let people know how dangerous the saunas are in Macau and tell you many things that probably any of you are aware about. I first went to the saunas in Macau in 2009 when I had a few friends that kept telling me how amazing Macau was and how the saunas have all these young girls that are like 20, 22 years old. They're all very grateful that they're able to make money to send back to their family and everything like that. So after about 6 months of them telling me to go, I'm like, okay, I'll go. I didn't want to go on a plane ride that long, to be honest. But I finally went, and I ended up meeting a girl at the sauna, and I fell for her. But the whole thing was actually a love scam. Here's what people will never tell you about the saunas, either because they don't know or they're too scared. Almost all, I'd say more than 90%, probably 95% of the 50 saunas in Macau are secretly owned by the guy pictured next to me. So the guy's English name is Louis Liu. I have both his English name and his Chinese name on the picture next to me. This guy, now saunas are legal in Macau. Prostitution's legal in Macau. So why would this guy secretly own these saunas? Well, if you search him on the internet, you'll see that he looks like he is a legitimate businessman. He won the Merit of Tourism Award for Macau. He's on the Sports Federation in Macau. He does all of these things that make him look very legit. So he does not want to have his name tied to the saunas because tons of illegal stuff goes on at the saunas. Number one, many of the girls are actually underage and they have fake passports. So he doesn't want his name tied to that if it becomes public. Number two, he rips off his clients. He steals from and even kills his clients. He blackmails them. And I'll tell you how they do it. Because I ended up marrying the girl that worked there, and she ended up telling me everything, and some of her friends told me things too. It took me years to get the information. At first they were scamming me, but then my ex felt bad and she started to tell me things. But she was basically under the influence of her family and under the influence of the guy that owns the sauna and his henchmen. The thing that they do is when you go to the sauna, the first thing they do is if you join their Wi-Fi, they sniff your Wi-Fi connection, and they have something called Wireshark. And they use this program, Wireshark, to put what's called a man in the middle in between your internet connection so they can figure out who you are, where you go on the internet, what's going on, and they insert malware into your phone so they could take over your phone and find out if you have money and anything like that, so they can decide whether or not you're going to be a target. That's number one. Number two, even though you spend money at the sauna and you're a paying customer, that's not enough for them. The guy that owns these saunas wants everything you have, and they will get the girls to start messaging you after you leave the sauna. If you exchange information with the girls, they'll get the girls to start messaging you, and they'll perpetrate what is known as a love scam, for lack of a better word. And hopefully you'll fall for it. And even better yet, if they find out that you're married, they're going to blackmail you. They're going to get video of you having sex with these girls. And then they're going to blackmail you afterwards and say, if you don't pay us money, we're going to tell your wife and everything like that. Or if you work at a company, they'll say, we want access to your company information. Like, let's say you work at Microsoft or something, and you're a big executive at Microsoft. Rather than just get money from you, they'll use you to infiltrate, to be able to spy on people's Microsoft accounts and do things like that. This is a very world international criminal organization that they run. And the guy that owns these saunas is a billionaire. Even though on paper, he only owns a travel agency and a Chinese restaurant. But he does many other things. He owns these saunas. He owns surgery centers where at night they rendezvous as organ harvesting centers because he's into the organ harvesting business. This guy's just a horrible person. So now back to the saunas though. Okay, so they perpetrate the love scam. They hack your phones and your devices. They try to find ways to blackmail you. Okay, if you have a lot of money and they can't blackmail you out of your money, they'll just try to find ways to get access to your accounts and maybe get you involved in some type of convoluted real estate deal that looks legitimate, but there's like some hidden clause or something that you didn't notice that gives them power of attorney to take all of your money. It happens all the time over there. So when you go to Macau and you go to the saunas, do know that they are targeting you. If you have money, they're trying to find out if they can blackmail you. They're going to try to steal your money. They're going to try to hack your devices. And once they hack your devices, it's very hard to get rid of them because they do something called air gapping. Once they get one device, they basically find a way to get all your other devices via Bluetooth connectivity or via your Wi-Fi or whatever. And once they get all your devices, the only way for you to fix it is you have to get rid of every device. You can't even do a low-level wiping of the device because they have firmware hacks in place that'll counteract and overcome that. So you got to watch out for the firmware hack. So the only way to get out of it, which I did, but it took me 5 years to figure out. I ended up getting 60 to 70 new devices between phones, computers, laptops, Android devices, iOS devices. The only way, and every time I'd get new devices, those devices would be hacked within a couple days. You have to change your nickname on Apple ID or your Google ID. You have to get a new one, and you have to get rid of every single device, including your router, especially your router and your home internet connection. Once you get rid of everything and start out fresh, then you have a chance, okay? But you better be good at recognizing phishing threats and other things like that, or they can probably get back in there if they really target you like they did to me. So here are some of the things that happened to me since 2009. One time, I moved to Vietnam to be, to stay with like my ex, who's dead now. She's dead, by the way. I explain all that. That's a long story. I explain all that in the book. But I moved to Vietnam, and they started poisoning my food. I started getting sick. One time, I thought for sure I was going to die. I didn't know what it was. I thought I got food poisoning or something, but I ended up finding out later they were poisoning my food. They had all my devices hacked. They were trying to, my ex and I had like an open relationship with her. And I told her, I said, hey, I love you, but once in a while, if my friends are in town or something, I might want to go to Macau and go to the saunas or whatever. So I'm not going to fall in love with anybody, but hey, is that okay? And she agreed to that, like right in the beginning. And it seemed like it didn't bother her. But they tried to get me to talk, like they'd have people contacting me on these different websites that were underage. And I, as soon as I found out their age, I said, no way. I said, you're 17? I said, that's illegal. I can't. So they try to get you hooked up with people that are underage so they can blackmail you. Another thing they tried to do when I was on an airplane from Hong Kong to Ho Chi Minh in 2011, they had a clone of my phone. They had me so hacked they were able to clone my phone. And on that clone, they put pictures of child porn. And they were trying to get me to admit that the phone was mine whenever I got to the Ho Chi Minh City airport. But I knew something was happening because one of her friends told me that I was going to have a problem in the next day or two. So I'm thinking, why did the other friend have me bring this second phone that looks like my phone? I couldn't power it on, though. The battery was dead. So why did they have me bring this phone? I ended up finding out later it was a clone of my phone. They were going to get me to admit it was my phone because when I turn on the phone, once they powered it on and got some juice in the battery, once I turned the phone on, I would have seen the same background. I would have seen the same contacts, and they would have had my other phone that looked the same to the side, and they would have got me to admit, looking, yes, that's my phone. And then there was a hidden compartment or a hidden program somewhere where there were a bunch of child porn pictures, and I would have been in jail. Done, okay? But I wouldn't, I kept telling the cop, I said, that's not my phone, and I'm not taking it with me. Something is weird with it. And eventually the cop gave up. Now, the police were in on it, too. Whenever I went from Hong Kong to Ho Chi Minh, they had people on the plane that were sitting next to me, and the guy said, so what are you doing visiting the girls in Macau? And I said to the guy, I said, wow. I said, how do you know I was in Macau? I'm flying out of Hong Kong. And then he smirked. And I said, how much will it cost to let one girl go? Because I already knew that I was a target at that point. And he said, $1,500 US. And so I said, okay. So I ended up getting up and going into the bathroom because I thought for sure they had to have planted drugs on my suitcase. So I go into the bathroom. I'm like looking feverishly through my suitcase, and I couldn't find any drugs. But then all of a sudden there's somebody banging on the bathroom, and it was a flight attendant saying, sir, somebody said you took your suitcase in there. I'm like, yeah, I'll be out in a minute. And they kept banging on the door. So I eventually went out and I looked at the guy and I said, listen, I said, I know this sounds crazy. I said, but I was in there in the bathroom looking for drugs because the guy sitting next to me told me this, and I know he's involved with these people. Anyway, to make a long story short, the flight attendant believed me. And the flight attendant said, okay, don't go sit down next to him, because the guy didn't even have a ticketed seat next to me, which I knew because I bought the 2 seats next to me, and her friends that were supposed to come with me back to Vietnam said they couldn't come because they were in a fight. And then all of a sudden, this stranger is sitting in the seat next to me. So the whole thing was planned, okay? So they tried to get me arrested there, but I wouldn't admit that the phone was mine. And also the pilot wouldn't press charges. Now, because I supposedly caused a disturbance on the aircraft, right? And when I was walking from the plane over to customs, the pilot walked with me and he said, just stay calm. He said, don't worry, we're not pressing charges. I said, why would you press charges against me? He said, we're required to in a situation like this. See, the triads knew that if there was something that happened on the plane, that's why they had that guy sitting next to me to make me freak out. If something happens on the plane that's a disturbance, they have to call the police and they have to press charges. But the pilot said, I refuse to press charges against you because I believe you. Okay, so I escaped that, barely. Then things really got bad because I had about $500,000 in U.S. in my house in Vietnam in a safe. I had it in Chinese RMB. And the reason I had so much RMB is because at the time, the Wall Street Journal said the RMB is going to join the dollar. And if it happens, the RMB could go up 40% in value. And Bank of China at the time, they changed it like a week after I took my money out. Bank of China, the U.S. money I had in there, they said, well, you can't convert it. You can't convert it to RMB. Only Chinese citizens can do that. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll just take the money out and I'll convert it at on the street at a conversion vendor, and I'll just take the money back to Vietnam and I'll keep it in a big safe. Now, I know that sounds stupid. It really was stupid now that I look back. But that's what I did, and that's why that's another reason they were targeting me so hard after that. They had people sitting outside my house smashing bricks off the wall, literally all day long, every 5 minutes. Anywhere I went, I got followed. I had to smuggle the money to Singapore. And I barely got out of Vietnam with the money. I had a suitcase full of Chinese RMB that weighed like 150 pounds. And the cops followed me to the gate. And the guy said, you got to come have coffee with us. So I went and sat down with them. And I was able to bribe them to let me go through. Now, why did I have to smuggle my money out of Vietnam when it was my money, if it was like legitimate money? Well, when I brought the money from Macau into Vietnam, I had to claim it. And as long as you claim money, whenever you leave Vietnam, if you have your claim ticket, you can get the money back out without paying a tax. But my ex and her friend, both of which worked at the sauna when I met them, they one day I was in my home office in Vietnam and they said, oh, we want to clean your office. I'm like, oh, that's nice. So they're going through every inch of my office, wiping every piece of dust, doing everything. And I thought they were just being sweet. No, they were looking for the customs declaration. So that way they found it and they stole it. And then I couldn't use it to be able to leave Vietnam with the money. And I was stuck in Vietnam with the money. Now, this same guy. This is his criminal. These are the triads. This is his criminal organization. They're doing this entire thing. They're working with the local cops. I mean, at my website, www.thedevilprefers.com, you can get full details on all of this stuff, on how I escaped scam after scam after scam. They've tried, since I've gotten to America, they've tried to kill me. They tried to run me off the road. One time I was driving, they had some type of device on the road that when I ran the device over, it triggered something that shot out from the side, and they punctured the sidewall of my tire right where there was a giant telephone pole, and I overcorrected when I steered, and I missed the telephone pole by a few inches, okay? That was meant to kill me there too. They have people follow me at the gym. They're always just trying to do something new. But once these parasites latch onto you, they will stop at nothing to get your money. Okay, they haven't got my money, but it's been really tough because they had my devices hacked and it was very hard for me to make money. because they were blocking text messaging and phone calls and everything. They were somehow sabotaging it so I couldn't make connections in business. And it's still going on to this day. I'm still fighting them, but I've gotten very good at fighting them. So with the technology, I'm a little bit better, and they have a hard time of getting around it. So the thing that I'm trying to make sure that you understand is, if you know anybody that goes to Macau, you need to warn them about these saunas and who owns these saunas and what they do at these saunas. These are evil people. They are criminals at the highest order. They will try to steal everything you have. They will try to kill you, and they will blackmail you, and they will usually do it so you don't even know that they did it. They'll try to make you think that it was one of those girls that you're with that did it, but no, it was them behind the scene. And my ex, before she died, told me that they get the girls that help work these scams, they get 20%. They get 20% of the take, okay? So if they steal $200,000 from you, they get $40,000. And the triads keep the rest, and then the police get some. But whatever it is, if you go to Asia and you go to these saunas, the person that's smiling at you, that girl is owned, okay? She's not some independent person that's just trying to make money for her family. She is owned. She is trafficked. And she will do what these horrible masters tell her to do. Or she could be killed, or she can be sold as a sex slave and sent off to Mongolia or whatever. I've heard all kinds of stories about what happens to these girls when I don't listen. So be careful in Macau and spread the word about who you're dealing with when you go there.